Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Service Titan Marketing Director, neuroscientist, and host of the Better Mental Health podcast, Dr. Chris Fasano.
Good morning, Ignite. I know some of us had a late night. I promise you I'm going to keep you up. My name is Chris Fasano, and I'm a Director of Marketing here at Service Titan, Aspire, and FieldRoutes. First off, thank you. This is a really special moment for me. The reason this means so much is I get to stand up here in front of the people this company truly lives for. You, our customers. We talk about you, full transparency. We talk about you in every call, every meeting, every decision. From the CEO down, customer obsession isn't just a buzzword. It's literally how we operate. And to be up here now with the very people we work so hard to support every day, it's honestly a huge honor. What makes this moment even more meaningful is that I'm not just up here speaking at you, I'm speaking with you, because that's what this is really all about. Whether it's in life or business, we're all trying to just move forward, to make progress, to take the next step towards whatever success looks like for all of us. And that's exactly what this company helps people do. Sure, we build best-in-class tools, powerful software, smart automation, AI, all of it. But those tools don't mean anything unless people like you pick them up and use them to make real things happen. Because let's be honest, these industries here, they're not for the faint of heart. Labor is tight, tech is changing, and customers always expect more and more. But here's what gives me confidence. All of you, the people in this room, I've spent the last few days hearing stories, watching sessions, talking with individuals who are doing more than just keeping up. You're leading. You're having a real impact. You're not just changing your businesses, you're changing the industry. And here we call you change makers. You're the people who see what's coming, and instead of resisting it, you lean in, you take risks, you rethink how things have always been done. You say yes to automation, to AI, leadership development. You make your teams better, your businesses stronger, and your futures more scalable. And while we could highlight dozens of incredible people here at Ignite today, we've chosen 3 stories that truly capture the spirit of transformation. Each of them took a leap, some into new technology, some into culture, some into operational overhauls, and every one of them came out stronger. You're going to hear about robotic mowers, electric fleets, automation, AI, but you're also going to hear about investing in people, building culture, and leading with a vision. And these aren't just customer stories you'll hear, they're playbooks, real-world examples of what's possible when you lead with curiosity and not fear. In just a minute, you'll hear from each of these leaders in a short spotlight format right there in those chairs, where we'll discuss what they did, how they did it, and of course, what you can take home to your own business. So what do you say, Ignite? Let's get started. Thank you. So to start us off, it's my pleasure to introduce Mike Lowrance from LMC Landscape Partners. Mike, welcome to the main stage. All right, Mike, so just let's get started by giving the audience a little bit about yourself, how you got into the industry, and a little bit about LMC.
Okay, I've been in the industry one way or another for about 35 years. Back in 2018, we had some change in personnel, and when we were looking at implementing Aspire, my boss at that time realized I was in the wrong position. So he asked me if I would like to implement. I was like, yeah, I'd love to. So started implementing Aspire back in 18. We went live in 2019 with a company I was with in Houston at that time. Then at the end of 2021, we got acquired, and then it was a fortunate, lucky progression to move over into kind of being the IT director of the platform at that time. And in 2022, we onboarded 3 more companies all at the same time. If you ever go through that, I don't recommend it. It's very stressful. So that was back in 22. And then in 20, and I was the only person really doing everything. I had 2 helpers at 2 of the larger companies at that time that helped out immensely. But out of the 4 companies, we only had 3 of us. And then 23, we acquired a new company, so onboarded another version of Aspire. And then in 2024, we did another one. So we are now at 6 total companies. We've got 14 branches. They're on the southeastern United States. Out of the 14 branches, 11 of them are commercial maintenance, 2 are construction, and 1 is arbor specific. And we've escalated to where it's myself at the platform, and then one of the other super users got promoted to where he's now helping me at the platform level. And we've got 4 others that are still in somewhat faster training and some newer training. So we should have here in the next few months probably 5 to 6 super users at the different locations, which is another thing I recommend, of having somebody local that can help out and support, because you can do so much through virtual, but in person, you're there to support the team. It's a lot better.
Okay. So let's dig into this a little bit about, you mentioned super users and got a big operation going on. So let's talk about, we've heard you say it all starts with Aspire, right? And so let's talk a little bit about that process. What does that mean? And just we'll talk a little bit about the evolution of how we get people to buy in, things like that. So tell us a little bit about what that means when you say it all starts there.
Throughout my whole career, I was very much preferred simple systems. The whole idea of working harder, working smarter, not harder. So once I started learning Aspire and learning everything that it did, everything starts with Aspire, from the cold calling of your customers and getting that tracked and implemented in the system, all the way through the AR and collection and the payments and deposits and stuff. So I don't like using multiple systems. Sometimes it's an unnecessary evil. From an IT perspective, which I am not an IT trained person, I'm an industry person that transitioned into IT. I don't like having to learn new systems. More systems you have to do, the harder they are to manage, the more personnel you may need that are specialized. So I try to do as much as possible within Aspire as we can from beginning to end.
All right, so then you come in, or someone comes in and they're like, we're going to use this program, we're going to implement this, we're going to push this out, right? That you might be 100% bought in. You're sold. You're good. But you got a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of, you got to be able to push that and have people adopt it. So let's talk a little bit about that, adoption and what your approach was to sort of building this out and getting people to buy in, because I think that's a real challenge. For everybody here, even if they're using the program and the software already, it's getting the buy-in all around and the usage and things like that. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, I'll first admit, not all of our locations are perfect. We still have issues that we are battling. But I think with the experience I've got and the positions I've had, I will say that at some point I've done every position in the industry, from the laborer through when I had my own business and I was a so-called accountant for my own business. So I've done every position. I think that has a lot of credibility when trying to go to the locations and explain to them the efficiencies that you can have. You can talk to them on their level.
Because you're speaking their language.
Yeah, you're speaking their language. From the mobile time entry, it doesn't become a time entry. We don't need field managers or your personnel. We don't want them living at a computer all day. We want them to be able to do the things they're good at. We don't want them sitting at a computer. So if you can do the mobile time entry and it becomes more of a time verification, having those conversations, meeting with account managers and showing them that how you're doing the estimating, you can do the same thing in Aspire. It is all in one system. If it's set up correctly, which is another caveat, it's accurate. So you know that the pricing that you're getting out there is accurate. You're not underselling yourself. You're not leaving money on the table. But also the delivery methods of getting things to the customer, and just meeting with the account managers, and even from branch manager level of being able to run the reports, creating the lists, looking at reports, custom-made reports. So it's just meeting with them on their level and showing them that, hey, if you're used to using this system, I really, really try to echo, we don't replace what you're doing, we're just gonna replicate it within Aspire. So ask the questions, get their input, and make them a part of the process so they do buy in and they see, okay, well, you're just replicating, you're just rebuilding what I've been using for years
Not replacing,
anyway.
right.
You're not replacing it, you're just replicating what they've been doing for years, but it's now in a system where everything is contained. So replicating what they've done, if they have something, if they don't, introduce them to what can be done, and then show them the power of that. Reducing the amount of data entry, and then eliminating where you're having to do multiple data points on the same thing. So just simplifying the processes, using technology that has not always been available in this industry to really make things a lot more efficient going forward.
So showing them sort of where they can go, how they could be more efficient. This is something that will probably come up with a couple of the guest series, which is finding a champion. Did you subscribe to that? Like, I know when you're trying to get buy-in, a lot of times it's very helpful to identify a couple of individuals who are really, really bought in, either whether or not they have a level of experience maybe that's different. Or do you subscribe to that? Have you identified early champions, and has that helped? Talk a little bit about that, how you identify them maybe, or what that looks like.
Definitely. So identifying champions at all levels. Again, going back to mobile, find somebody that really adapts to the mobile, and we did have a branch at one point that said, if you make us use our phones, we're all gonna quit. All the crew leaders basically said, hey, we're gonna quit if you make us use a phone. Find somebody that's on the crew that can maybe adapt to that. If you wanna give them a raise to make it, hey, we really need to do this. So if your crew leader is the one that's gonna really push back on it, find some way to work around it and promote them, and then use them to try and help train the others. And then they eventually get buy-in, and it's not an overnight fix. It's not. We're in the landscape industry. There are some people that maybe can't even read and write very well. So trying to have them use technology is not the easiest thing. From the account manager's perspective, of getting people that really buy in and identifying those individuals that are really gonna take to the software, and they're gonna use it, and then utilize them with their peers. Because when you come in as an IT director or an Aspire director, whatever your title is, they see you kind of as a potential higher level executive or a corporate person. They may not want to listen to you as well. So finding those champions locally to really work with their peers and helping them along, whether or not you have an opportunity to be able to bonus them out a little bit or give them a little kick, or at least giving public recognition. I don't think we say thank you enough to our employees enough in this industry. So recognizing them and thanking them for their efforts. But yes, definitely find champions. Alternatively, I will say you're going to find some people that do not want to adapt. What you want to do with those people may turn into some difficult changes, but I don't want to get into the old saying about if you're not willing to change, you're going to be left behind, but it's kind of an unfortunate reality of the world, but also getting technology into this industry.
If you're going to make a commitment to it, then you need to make sure that, yeah. You talked a little about data and just making sure you can maintain your data integrity across. Just wondering if you can share a little bit about how you do that, how you make sure and cultivate that. Is it just something from the beginning and set up, or is it in your process from the beginning? Because we talk about what you put in is what you get out.
Yes, everything. You have to have an SOP. If you don't have an SOP, you're going to have people that are going to be putting things in willy-nilly. There's going to be mistakes. Again, we're not perfect. We also have a lot of things that we're creating and analyzing to make sure that mistakes are at a minimum. We try to catch the mistakes as soon as possible. Bad information going in is bad information coming out. So if you have bad information going in, we utilize Aspire. It's a system. You're going to get out of it what you put into it. So if you do have a system and you have data that going in, you're going to make some correct business decisions, but it's based upon bad data. So then it ends up being a bad business decision. So you've got to make sure the data going in is accurate and correct, whether it's good or bad. Again, it's a system. You want to know where you're doing bad so you can make improvements, but you also want to make sure where you're doing good, because if you're doing good and you want to do a standard increase across all contracts, and you're really performing really well on that one, do you want to risk them going out to bid if you're going to send them an increase if you're doing really well? So you've got to be able to analyze the data, but it's also got to be accurate. So making sure that you have the SOPs in place to train it, but then also having the people in place that are managing it and looking at it and bringing it to others' attention that if you make a mistake, it's not throwing people under the bus, it's holding them accountable.
Yeah, that's important.
Accountability is very, very important.
So we're talking about really the core platform, and I know that you're unlocking more value through integrations and things like that in the spirit of driving change and moving things forward. I'm just wondering if you can share one of those with us and how you've seen that, the impact that's had in addition to the core platform.
So as far as the integrations, we have had some Weathermatic integrations from several years. We've got Azuga that we integrate with Aspire. And then within the last year, we did change ERPs. Then we had some people on our team that worked really hard of getting the APIs built out to integrate to where we've actually are getting from information from the data warehouse and the ERP to where we're starting to build Power BI reports. Aspire is a phenomenal tool, but there's just some things that are more readily available through that conversion of having Power BI, especially because we do have 6 different versions of Aspire. So if I've got a regional manager that's wanting to look at both of his companies, it's very difficult and time consuming to go log into 2 different versions of Aspire. So with this integration with Power BI, we're able to try and start creating dashboards that are syncing all of them and bringing them all into one place.
I'm wondering, as you're implementing these sort of these changes, these new things, and as the individuals that you're working with see the positive that coming from it, does that help ease them for the next time that you say like, hey, we got this new integration? Do you know what I mean? Like as they see the benefit of it, and maybe at first people are a little more hesitant, but then they see, oh wow, this works, this helps me. You see that over time, and then it's a little easier with every change that you want to make. I imagine at the beginning it might be a little more hesitant. I know you're always going to have the people that are hard, sort of, but when they see it, do you see a sort of shift? Because I feel like that happens a lot with change.
Definitely. I was heavily involved in sports throughout my younger age, a long time ago, and being in a coaching world, as a coach and as a parent, you want to see your people successful. I relate that to with training out Aspire. When you see that light bulb go off on somebody of like, oh, this is awesome, I get it. That is a very celebratory moment. So I really I get a lot of satisfaction in seeing that, but it's also just another opportunity of going back to now you got another champion.
Right.
So once that light bulb goes off on that person, ride them along, guide them, direct them, because now you've got somebody else that's on your team that is going to support your efforts trying to go forward.
I imagine that takes some patience sometimes when you're trying to do that, yeah. Well, we have a lot of eager ears here in the audience, for individuals here trying to improve or drive growth or make change. What are some little nuggets or advice you can leave people with when they leave here and they hear it and they're going to say, I'm going to go back and I'm going to take that with me?
The 2 things I'd leave you all with, and some people are very hard to take this back, is don't do too much too soon. It's, especially if you don't have much technology in your business right now, it's going to be very hard for some people to swallow. Incremental improvements, just a little bit every day, a little bit every week, a little bit every month. Identify and make incremental improvements, celebrate the wins when you have them, but don't try and do too much too soon. Being here at the conference, y'all are going to take away 18 pages of notes. Break it down, start small, get really good at one thing before you move on to the next. Kind of the jack of all trades, master of none. If you go too far, too soon, you're not going to be master of the first ones. So incremental improvements. And then again, the last one is just the data accuracy. You've got to make sure the data from day one is going in accurate. I probably overuse the term of muddying the water, but when you make that water muddy at the beginning, it takes a lot longer to get it clear. It may take another 6 months or a year before it starts clearing up and getting you the data that you really need.
Awesome. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming out first and sharing with us all this great information. We're going to bring out our next guest, Brianna Neerlin from Quick Hill Pest Control. Mike, pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Brianna. So before we start, Brianna and I had, the first time Brianna and I did something like this was on a podcast. We were doing it through Zoom in microphones, speaking to absolutely nobody and hoping that someone's actually listening. So look at us now on a main stage with real humans in the audience. So Brianna, welcome. Like we did with Mike, let's start with intro yourself, how you got into the industry and a little bit about Quick-Kill.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. Much different crowd this time, for sure.
Exactly.
So Quick-Kill Pest Control, we are 46 years in business this year. We're a second-generation family business. My dad started it. And we always say that we're second generation, but we're really first generation on our growth journey. And that's because my dad ran it solo. My brother came in, and he really wanted to grow it and make it bigger. And so here we are today. We're up to 27 team members and continuing to grow and build. I'm our vice president, so I oversee all day-to-day operations. I'm also doing a lot of our strategic planning, team member development, and focusing a lot on our culture these days.
Yeah, that's something that I want to focus on a lot with you. I know just from talking with you and interacting with you over the years, you're really focused on leadership and workforce development, building a culture, which for me, I mean, I love that concept. I really think it matters really in the long-term viability of business and things like that. So let's get into that a little bit. So tell me why, you're so focused on that, what you see in the value there, and we can get into some of the things, programs, or some of the things you're doing there to build on that.
Yeah, so we started that way I started focusing on the culture more because the people are the ones that are representing our brand at this point. When I started in the industry, I started as a technician. So I was the one out performing the services, representing my own brand. And as we've grown, I'm not the one doing that anymore. So with that, I started bringing in more of a culture of care, making sure that every team member feels really, really valued. And that just has helped us continue to grow. We're making sure that we're hiring people with same values so that we have the right people in the organization that are always representing our company, our brand appropriately, and how we want to be seen in our community.
Yeah, and so let's talk about how you bring people into the business, staffing, recruiting, things like this. How do you approach it? Do you approach it differently? And finding great people, and when you bring them in, what are some ways that you sort of make sure, or maybe double check the fact that yes, they are definitely a fit for the culture you're trying and Quick-Kill's trying to build around?
Yeah, so recruiting, I don't feel like we're doing anything super crazy on that. Indeed is our best platform. We love Indeed. There's so much great talent there. We can actually actively recruit, not just waiting for people to apply for positions. So we're always making sure we're keeping an eye on the people that are updating their resumes, that maybe they don't have pest control experience, but they have other home services experience, and just continuing to build that way. But something that's really cool that's been happening in our organization the last couple of years is we've started getting organic team member referrals. And when I say that, we don't have a referral bonus in place. We're not doing anything to say like, hey, refer your friends. It is completely organic and genuine that I love working with this company and I want other people to come work with us too. It's got to be so satisfying to see them. It is the craziest thing. It's just so heartwarming is really what it comes down to. And then when I kind of spoke on, the values and making sure we're hiring people with the same values as us. And with that, I've got a couple of very value-oriented interview questions I like to ask. And a couple of those, though, first and foremost, I always just ask people what they consider to be their personal values. And it takes people back. Like,
I'm sure.
when you ask that, people are like,
wait, what?
That's not what I came to answer,
Yeah.
But it's really interesting because you can tell when they give you a very fluffy answer, and you can also tell when they really open their hearts to it. And then my other question that is an absolute favorite is I ask everybody to tell me a time, professionally or personally, that they were really proud of themselves. And the first time I asked that in an interview was about 8 years ago. And the gentleman, he sat up a little taller, his eyes got a little glint in them, and he goes, well, my wife and I adopted my niece. She needed a good home, and so we adopted my niece, and that is my daughter, and we didn't have kids as a plan in our marriage, and he goes, and now we can't imagine it without her. And
it's great.
It just touches you, and I was like, I want you in my company.
Because you get to really see who that person is, right? Beyond just something in a job and a thing, yeah.
Yeah, you see who they are and what makes them feel good.
Right.
And somebody with that much heart and that much care and also the ability to be that vulnerable in an interview is somebody I want working with my clients.
Yeah.
And he always represents our brand beautifully.
Yeah, I love that. And so with that, I'm wondering, you have needs to hire sometimes short term, but you want people to be there part of a long term. Do you, I mean, sometimes you need to find someone to quickly, but you really try to stick to that, right? Like you really try not to knee-jerk hire and just be like, okay, we'll bring this person in, right? Sometimes like I imagine that can be hard, but is that really what you're thinking? Like, man, like we really just want to really try to build this out. We don't want to just bring somebody in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've made knee-jerk hires, and I don't think a single one of them is still with us, actually. And it's hard because when you need people, you're there and you're like, I need another technician. I need somebody in my office. But it's just not worth it. And our team has come to respect that enough where they'll pick up that extra Saturday. They'll work a little bit later because they'd rather that than having somebody come in that just isn't the right fit.
Yeah. So along these lines of people, culture, I also know this about you from the past. You've launched a local chapter of the PWIPM, Professional Women in Pest Management. What is the inspiration there, and how do you feel like that has helped in the culture that you're trying to build at Quick Hill?
So PWIPM, I started as a technician on the road, and I love the on-the-road work. I still try to get out occasionally when I can. And when I was a tech, I felt those struggles. I felt that, and it wasn't from other people in industry, it was always from clients. When I showed up at their door, I was 25, probably looked like I was about 16, right?
Yep.
And they'd open the door and they'd be like, what are you here to do? They already told me the price. I want somebody to do the service. And I'm like, well, lucky for you, here I am. Yeah, so it really created, I started kind of attending virtual PWIPM meetings with other chapters during COVID, and I saw this wonderful sense of community and also this purpose of something bigger than just my company and what I was doing there. So I wanted to start a local chapter. I went to join Wisconsin's chapter, and we didn't have one. And I'm like, well, guess it's time to start one. So yeah, then we did that, and it's really helped, and the team also sees that as super inspirational. They love having a leader who's involved in so much more than just the business.
Yeah. Well, you spend a lot of time on culture, on your people, workforce development. Are there any ways and things that you've done to sort of free up, I imagine you free up more time so you can spend time in that sort of stuff, if you will, and that good stuff? I mean, we're talking about adopting things like automation and things like that. What are some things that you've done that have helped you and the team free up a little more time?
For sure. So a couple of things that we've done. You mentioned automation. Automation is huge. Just automating as many processes as we can. When something comes across my desk, I always want to ask myself, can this be automated? Will we lose our personal touch with our clients if we automate it? And
by the way, I love that approach. Like, can this be automated? Just thinking that. Try to, like, with my team and to our teams too. It's like, it's okay to ask that question. Can this be automated?
Absolutely, yeah. So we started automating those processes, and then I had more time because I wasn't trying to manage the tasks that were happening, and my team also had more time. So then I started focusing on in-depth training programs to continue to grow the team and build them and empower them. And it's still a work in progress, it's always evolving and always changing. But by doing that, now I have team members who see the need and they say, wait a minute, this isn't right. What can I do to help it so it doesn't have to be an audit that comes across my desk?
Mm-hmm. I've heard you say, I wrote it down here, that you want to operate, let's see if I get this right, operating from where you want to be, not necessarily where you are, which I love. So talk to us about what that means, really, in the day-to-day.
So automating operating where you want to be, for me, I'm always keeping an eye on where we would be when we're at X amount of team members, and I set that higher. So we're at 27 right now. I'm looking at, would this operation sustain if we're at 60, 75, 100, kind of just depending on where our growth trajectory is for the next couple of years. And if the answer is that that process isn't going to sustain, then it needs to change, because I don't want to be putting out fires constantly. I want to be focusing on the strategic planning, the people development, the growing of the team. And at one point, I was the fire master, you know.
Yep.
I was just putting things out. I was like waiting for that next thing.
We're all fire masters at some point.
Yeah, I was just waiting for that next thing to cross my desk, and I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah. You have the floor here is yours to impart some advice. Are there things that you would say here or suggest to everybody here, just some nuggets that they might take back and from Ignite and implement?
Absolutely. If you're not automating things, make sure you are, right? Use the software. We're all paying for this very robust software, whether it's FieldRoutes or Aspire. Make sure you're using it. Utilize it to the best of your capability, but also make sure that you're, keeping true to who you are and your values. It's also very easy to become distracted by the shininess of something new, but will it work with your clients? Will it work with your team? Does it represent your brand appropriately is really important. And then just make sure that you're following up with connections you're making too. I'm sure everybody in this room has made wonderful connections this week. Don't let those fall to the wayside when you hop on your plane. And lastly, appreciate your team, appreciate your clients. Make sure you're scaling ahead of your growth, and don't stop learning. Don't stop, trying to be better and growing as an individual, as a leader. Really make sure that you're focusing on that and not becoming complacent yourself. It's very easy to do, as you get through more and more leadership.
You mentioned appreciate your team. Just in our last few little bit here, is there any things you do to do just a general appreciation, making it in your mind that we're going to go out of our way to appreciate? Are there any things that you do to really push that narrative around?
Absolutely. There's a few things that we do that they're so simple. They don't have to be these really large scale things. Yeah, and so it's the picking up the phone and calling that technician on their way home from work that day just to see how their day was. Mm-hmm. And when you start doing it, they're gonna be like, "Why is the boss calling me?" Right? What I do wrong today. But when you do it consistently, they look forward to that, and they really appreciate that. Have parties frequently. Don't wait for a Christmas party or a summer picnic. Make sure that you're celebrating on a regular basis, and also find what speaks to their hearts. So we will make donations to the community, and those organizations that we're donating to are going to come from our team members. One of our team members recently lost his mom very sadly, very abruptly, and she was an organ donor. So when the services came and everything, we made sure to make a donation in her name on behalf of Quick Kill for the organ donation association, everything, which was really, it meant a lot to him and his family.
Sure. Well, thank you. Thank you for driving change, coming out and talking to us. The next time we do this, we're gonna have to up the venue, I guess. We'll have to figure out a way to get a bigger stage and more people, and I'm confident that you'll be able to do that. So thank you so much. We're gonna bring on Todd Reinhardt of Reinhardt Landscaping. Brianna, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good. So, Todd, this is funny. Before we start, Todd and I were speaking, and when we were prepping, and we were talking about these mowers, these AI mowers that just mow lawns. And I was far into this. Now I'm seeing them. Now, I don't know if it's just like because we talked, I see them, but the other day I'm just looking, I'm like, this thing is getting its lawn mowed and no one's there. All right, so we're gonna get to that. Tell us a little bit, Todd, about Reinhardt Landscaping, because we've heard you describe it as a tech company that just happens to do landscaping, and of course, as a tech company, we love that. So tell us a little bit about the business.
So next year will be our 40th year in business. My brother and I started in high school in 1986, and we've been mowing lawns ever since. This has just been an incredible ride. Last night, as we were having dinner at the carnival, and just what an amazing group of people. Like, I count some of the people in this industry as some very close friends, and we've been involved in other industries over the years, but to just start out mowing grass and then you know, even end up, what an honor to end up on a stage like this, but, you know, everyone out here is just incredible.
So from going from that, high school mowing lawns, to now all this tech, how does one get there? How does one sort of make that transition?
So I've always kind of been, we're going this. All right.
There you go.
So I've always kind of been a tech nerd, if you will. I was using one of the first Apple IIe computer users way back in the day. Most of you don't know what that is, or the Apple Newton, but we were playing with technology. We were a very early innovator in a system similar to Aspire. In 2008, we put our first operational system in software.
Okay. Well, let's get into a little. I want to learn and talk a little bit more about this tech. So we've heard you adopt robotics, electrification, things like that. Why don't we talk a little about some of the things you've adopted, because I want to get into how you were able to, like we were talking about with Mike, how you were able to get your teams to buy in. I think that's one of the key pieces here for individuals, you know, and also people might hear that and think it's a bit foreign to them. Like, I can't have electric things like that. Like, I don't know how to use stuff. Like, I'm not a tech person like maybe you are, for example. So talk a little bit about what you've adopted and how you've gotten people to think differently about it.
So we've always been out on that cutting edge. We've always been like, what's next? What's coming around the corner? What do we need to adopt? I mean, anyone can, no offense to anyone can mow lawns. But how do we separate ourselves out from our competition? How do we do things better, faster? Systems, processes, and people. And what we started to look at was, as the robotic mowers, that was kind of the first, not really adopting Aspire obviously was, you know, that's first, that's the core of the business. But then as we started, how do we keep getting our service offerings or increasing our service offerings and the service that we're giving our clients? And how do we mitigate some labor issues? And so that's how the automated mowers really started. And as we did that, we started with the wired units, just a couple of them. And we started very slow, and then we went all in once the pattern mowing came out. And then we started working with most of the major manufacturers. And we just kept up in the game. We put in a full-time director of autonomous. And that was probably one of the most important things that we did. You have to, if you decide to go down the battery, adopting battery technology for your handhelds, adopting battery technology even in zero turns, doing that type of thing, or especially the robotics, you have to put in a champion. And they can't be touched by anyone else in the organization. They can't go, oh, we're short a person today, we need to take the robotics guy with us. They're not, it's non-negotiable. You cannot take that person because they have a job to do every day. And then the light bulb really went on when we started thinking of the robotic mowers, the dedicated ones that stay on site, the small ones. Mm-hmm. We started to think of those as an irrigation system. And that's how we started setting them up, with zones and patterns, and just dedicated to that area of the lawn, and it takes care of different mowers, different size mowers, takes care of different areas. So that's how the whole system kind of started. Now we have well over 50 of these small, low-power autonomous, and we're doing over 100 acres a day with those machines alone. Then we have some of the high-power autonomous that we're testing, as well as the battery. We've gone pretty much, I think we're 90% handheld battery-powered units, and then we have already several of the battery-powered zero turns.
I'm like a data guy. I imagine you're getting tons of data back, and I have to imagine that helps drive business forward, drive growth, right?
Yeah, we are. In fact, that has been one of our big pushes. We put a full-time, about 3 years ago, we hired a full-time data analyst, because we figured that we were looking at the data, even coming in from Aspire, and we were probably using 30% of it. And I was really convicted. We're paying all this money, and we're tracking all this time, and are we using it? And so it's one of the things that has become kind of we were leveraging it as a strategic weapon, as having a full-time data analyst, because we can look at a lot of things quicker, build out dashboards, and do a lot more focusing on the things that matter.
You ever think you would hire a full-time data analyst when you were out?
We saw the trend in the industry, and it's that networking. It's, you know, everybody in this room, it's that network. It was funny because last night we were sitting around, and all the data analysts the data people were hanging out talking. There were 3 or 4 of them from different companies last night, and they were all hanging out together, sharing best practices.
Wow, that's awesome.
And that doesn't happen in other industries. You should all be very proud of your people and of the sharing that you're willing to do.
So let's talk about some of we're talking about where you are now. Let's talk about some of the bumps or some of the surprises or maybe some of the, when you're trying to implement this, I have to imagine we were talking about this with the rest of the guests here, like there's going to be people that are resistant. So talk a little about some of those, whether it's technical or cultural that you came across.
Yeah, several years back, we implemented traction or EOS, starting about 5 years ago. And one of the sayings I heard someone along the way say is, change the people or change the people. And that resistance to change can stagnate your company. And we decided that, we talk about it all the time. We have to continuously get better. We have to continuously prove our service and our product offerings. And if we don't, another competitor is going to take advantage of that. And where the tech has headed, remote resets are coming on all these mowers. You're going to be able to operate them remotely from somewhere in the world. Doesn't matter. We just looked at a Gen 4. We've got a Gen 4 prototype right now, and it's going to be able to be remotely operated when it gets in trouble, as well as you'll see them this winter. They will also accept snowplow. And you take the mower head off the front, put snow plows on, and then all you have to do is have someone show up and do the detail work.
Jeez. That's wild to me. I'm just imagining this.
But you're seeing them everywhere now.
I saw one. I was like, what is this?
Everybody, when they leave here, is going to be getting
I
ads
did.
on
I was
Facebook.
like, there's a lawn being mowed right now, and there's no one there doing it. So this is where we are. You mentioned championed.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
They said that our industry, just the service industry in general, is 800,000 people short. That's not going away.
Right.
So you have to use a system like Aspire. Like, you have to be the most efficient with your labor as possible. And I don't see any other way.
That's a good point. So a lot of times people think about this as replacing, but we like to think about it as force multiplying. So for example, if you're 5 and you want to get to 10, maybe you can't find those extra 5, but if you can do what 10 can do with the 5 you have by implementing this tech, something like that, that's a different way of thinking about it, if you will. It's less about replacing with these robotics. It's more about just being able to scale and doing things with more than what you have.
Well, whether you want to all face it or not, the model's changing. And Aspire has shown us, like our data coming out of Aspire has shown what's going to happen. It's going to be a one-man crew, one-person crew in a small truck going and doing the detail work. The days of 3, 4-man crews are over, and it's going to happen within the next probably 36 months. The entire model, and the only way you're ever going to know this is watching your Aspire data. It's going to be fast. And we're already running them. We're doing proof of concept right now. But what you can do then is it's smaller vehicles, less fuel, less labor. There's no drive time. Our on-site time just keeps increasing, our on-site job times, because when you don't have the second person riding along in the vehicle, and since the labor is such the shortage, you can now have 2 crews where there was only 1 crew available to do the work before.
I want to talk about champions, finding those, and how you've done that. Again, for people here that are thinking about, wow, this is awesome, I really want to get this implemented, but I have no idea how I'm going to sell my team on it or how I'm going to get people to buy in. I think it's really, really important. You're there, you're exploring, you're pushing the boundaries. So what were some things you did to identify those individuals, and how did you promote that around?
Sure. So we actually started with a champion for robotic lawnmowers and learned the process. We started putting out one at our shop. Then we started with the number 1 customer that would never, we've been servicing them for years. We put them out at their place, started creating marketing buzz. The model isn't perfect yet, so we're assigning some of the mower cost back to marketing. But that gave us the ability, because of all the postings we've done on them. But the person that we're finding that comes in to operate these lawnmowers is a very different person that shows up to want to mow lawns. These are both of the individuals that we're on our 3rd person right now. They're all IT heavy. have built their own drones or have their drone pilot's license. They're all college students. They're in IT. They're a very different person that you're bringing into your organization. And this is what you're going to start to see as this shifts, is the everyday person that you've hired to come and mow lawns is not the person that will be mowing lawns 5 years from now. It'll be a tech person that is managing a robot fleet. And in fact, we had the individual that we had doing this summer is actually an engineer at the University of Illinois. And he went home and told his parents he was going to take an internship mowing lawns for the summer. And his parents were like, hold on, time out. Like, you're doing what? And he was just messing with them. He's like, no, I'm operating and repairing and setting up an entire robot fleet of 50 machines to mow over 100 acres a day. So his parents were like, oh my gosh, this is an incredible opportunity. Right. And we have solar panels that drive a lot of these mowers off grid. So and he got all that experience as well. So and then his professors, of course, have been asking him, all these things about it, and he's like, yeah, I work with solar.
Yeah, I have to imagine that's like a different application, right?
It is, and it's there.
And looking at our time, but I want to make sure I ask you this. No, you're fine. This is great. We're talking about in the field and things like this. What about in the office, with AI and automation and things like that? There's one thing to have, I know the data's flowing in there, and that's part of what you guys are looking at, but anything you've done that makes it a little bit easier on the inside piece in automations or things like this?
Sure. So living out on this cutting edge, if you will, sometimes you bleed, but we decided that we wanted to be an AI first company. And so I went kind of deep down the rabbit hole and started learning to write the AI prompts. If you're just using it for email, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. You should be using it for so much more. And if you're not paying the $30 or $40 a month for the advanced version, I talk about this all the time, you should be. You should be, and you should be up to speed on it. And you should be reading about it, learning about it, listening to podcasts about it. And this is because we're using AI to really accelerate all the other stuff we're doing.
Yeah. If I'm in here in the audience, I'm hearing this, and I'm saying, man, I don't know how I'm going to go back. I don't know how I'm going to do this. What am I going to do? Let's leave the audience with some tangible things they can maybe take back, starting simple and saying, making a change and going back and implementing.
Sure. So one of the lowest hanging fruits that you're going to find if you're running, I'll start with the battery tech. If you're running 2-cycle fuel, we switched to battery and we cut almost 30 hours. Week 1, we cut 30 hours a week off a mechanic fixing 2-cycle equipment. Week 1. And so I've challenged everyone that I talk to, open your calendar, pick a date, and your first crew will have battery handheld devices
like set the date
by that date.
Yeah.
Pick out your calendar, pick the date, and go, by this date, I will have 1 crew. And I can't tell you, if you don't go to your dealer, go to, I work with several of the handheld manufacturers, and because we give feedback all the time, and we're working with them to better their product. But you should go to a manufacturer, talk to 3 or 4 of them, see who has the best. The number one thing, though, is charging tech. The charging technology, charging the batteries is the thing that you have to worry about the most. Not about, are the handhelds robust, will they last? I will tell you yes. There's certain people that have a little bit better battery tech right now than others, but the thing that you should be concerned about is also, just a real quick side note, we loved certain brands, but those certain brands of handhelds, everyone uses their battery. That equipment may be red, start with an M. Everyone uses their battery. We were really scared that they were going to disappear. So we used another brand that we thought had a little bit better battery technology, but the batteries wouldn't be so tempting to walk off.
Okay.
So battery tech is the first easy thing to do. Open your calendar, pick a date, and say, that's the date that I'm going to do. Robotics, buy one. Segway, Crest, they both have, small sub $1,000 unit, pattern mow, take it to your house, deploy 1 unit, get started. Because it's that muscle. You're training that muscle to get ready for it, to just have that experience, because it's coming, and your competitors are going to do it if you don't.
Yep. Awesome. I love that, picking a date. And by the way, how come marketing always gets the costs? I heard you say we pass on the marketing.
It is a huge, by the way, we started doing it, and we got calls from people that we had never been able to crack that customer for years.
Wow. Awesome. Really awesome stuff. I look forward to seeing more electric mowers and noticing these things more and more. Todd, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thanks, Ron, man. Thank you. You can bring it back, I think. Thank you. You can bring it back in there. The microphone. Thank you. All right, everybody. Well, I don't know about all y'all, but it's hard to hear all of that and not feel two things, inspired and ready. Because the message across every story we heard today and the past few days, whether it came from a founder, a general manager, or someone in the field, has been the same. The future belongs to those who lean in. And just by being here at Ignite, you've already made a statement. You've raised your hand and said, I want to get better. I'm ready to lead. I'm not going to wait for change. I'm going to drive it. You didn't have to show up here, but you did, and that says everything. So now what? What will you do next week that you weren't ready to do last week? What idea will you take home? What shift will you make? What conversation will you start because of what you experienced here? And just know this, you won't be doing it alone. I promise you that. We'll be here with you every step of the way. Because we don't just build software, we partner to help you build businesses and communities. And we do this through various programs that support and educate and connect, like Power the Nation, shining a light on individuals who are giving back in their communities. Power the Nation is here to educate, empower, supplement, help sustain the meaningful change you're initiating. And we've been a proud partner, for example, to impactful work by North by Northwest Landscaping and Natural State Pest Control. And we want to do more. Through Aspire in the classroom, we heard Mark talk about this, training the next generation in high schools and universities, giving students real-world skills in operations, sales, admin, finance, giving them a chance to touch, feel, and use the Aspire program and see why it's so vital to the green industry. Through the FieldRoutes Pathfinders and Aspire Ambassadors programs, helping customers help each other. Aspire Ambassadors and FieldRoutes Pathfinders get a chance to influence the software roadmaps, to engage with Aspire or FieldRoutes teams, to network with fellow customers, and to elevate your brands. Through consumer and industry research, giving you real data to make smarter decisions. You'll find so much insight and analysis of your industries in the Landscape Industry Report from Aspire and from the State of the Pest Industry Report from FieldRoutes. And after all of that, if you're still wondering whether this work is worth it, let me share something a customer recently wrote to leadership in an email. I love this quote. Quote, "You didn't just give me software, you gave me hope when I was stretched thin. You gave me the structure to grow and the belief that I could dream bigger than I ever thought possible." Quote. I mean, that's really what this is about. It's not just software, it's hope, structure, belief, forward motion. So as we head back to our teams, our customers, our communities, let's bring the momentum with us. Let's go. Here at Ignite, you've learned new strategies for unlocking revenue, for driving stronger results through pro products, for building more efficient processes for your teams, so much more. Some of you've made new contacts, people who can answer your questions or learn from your best practices. But most importantly, you've picked up new ideas for continuing to deliver the best possible service for your customers. And so, my friends, keep going, make the change, and let's build tomorrow together. Thank you, Ignite.
Please welcome back to the stage, John Gold.
All right, everybody, I hope it's been a fantastic few days. I certainly am super, super glad to have been here with you all. On behalf of myself, Aspire, FieldRoutes, and Service Titan, thanks so much for the commitment to yourselves, to your organization, and for joining us. Now, I'm super excited about next year. Next year, we're going to head back to Orlando, Florida, to the Swan and Dolphin Resort, and that'll be October 7th through October 9th. So until then, folks, may you walk on and never walk alone. Thanks so much.